Chapter 674, Condensing Sword Heart. Chapter 674, Condensing Sword Heart. Jian Wushuang became even calmer during this crisis. He was able to do this because of the many experiences he had while adventuring for all those years in the ancient world. Swish. As his two original bodies merged into one, the 10 puppet fighters immediately rushed towards him while slashing at him from all directions. However, he was not afraid at all. At that moment, everything in front of his eyes seemed to disappear, except for his sword, as if only he and the sword were the only things in the world. A sword is like a human being. It has its own feelings. Let your heart become one with it and it will follow your heart, moving as you intend it to. Xian Yi's words echoed in Jian Wushuang's mind. Let your heart become one with it and it will follow your heart. As he continually repeated this to himself, there was a gradual change in his swordsmanship. Not only that, his sword soul, which had been floating quietly in the sea of consciousness this whole time, suddenly quivered violently and released a surge of power. Jian Wushuang closed his eyes and focused on sensing it, even though he was currently being attacked by 10 puppet fighters. Even during all that, he did not stop moving and he even became swifter, enabling him to slowly increase his resistance against the puppet fighters. And, all of this was thanks to the insight into sword principle he gained a moment ago from the frenzied attacks raining down on him from all these puppet fighters. As a result, his sword soul began to release an enormous power, which slowly flowed towards his sword heart. It was hard to imagine, but Jian Wushuang was experiencing all these things at such a crucial moment, yet it all made sense. He had been learning the sword principle for so long, even while he was still in the ancient world, building his sword soul up until it reached the highest level. Also, during the last 2 years in the ancient sect, he had been cultivating at an amazing speed due to Xian Yi's help. However, he had gradually reached a bottleneck. Therefore, just as Xian Yi had said, with so many accumulations, what he needed was a spark of insight. That spark of insight finally surfaced on the 27th floor. On the previous floor, he had gone all out, which relaxed him. Then, on the next floor, he had been forced to endure an unbearable pressure, which put him under an incredible amount of stress. While facing the contrast between these two feelings, he was finally able to break through the bottleneck. It was completely natural and straightforward. On the 27th floor, the 10 puppet fighters had used every method they had to attack Jian Wushuang. However, they were still repelled by him. At that very moment, Jian Wushuang finished condensing his sword heart, which meant that he could finally open the door and step into the real world of sword principle. Before that moment, he was still just an apprentice, even though he possessed such a strong sword soul, because condensing a sword heart was the first step everyone must take to enter that world. As of now, Jian Wushuang had finally arrived at a vaster road of cultivation. Back inside the 9th Heaven Road, Jian Wushuang suddenly opened his eyes and a streak of terrifying sword essence swept out from him. Swish. Swish, swish, swish. The puppet fighters were all forced backwards by this sudden release of power. Sword heart. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and focused on sensing of his sword soul, which had changed from its original form and become a dazzling light in the shape of a sword. This golden light was incredibly sharp, giving off the feeling that there was nothing it couldn't cut through. Is this light my sword heart? Jian Wushuang could sense that the power from this light was much stronger than his sword soul. He was so excited now that he had reached a whole new level in sword principle and could finally control his sword just with his heart. Show me your power, sword heart. Jian Wushuang was full of expectations. He moved towards a nearby puppet fighter and struck out. It seemed to be a casual blow, but with the power of his sword heart, it moved towards its target 10 times faster than before. The puppet fighter spotted Jian Wushuang's move and tried to defend itself, but the sword went through its body before it could even move its spear to defend. Jian Wushuang then turned to other puppet fighters, defeating them all, one by one, so fast that they never even had a chance to fight back against him. The 27th floor was conquered. Going back several moments, to the hall in which the experts of the ancient sect were gathered, everyone's sight was currently focused on Jian Wushuang. He was the only challenger that was still inside the 9th Heaven Road. The other challengers had all failed and were sent out. When they saw that Jian Wushuang was finally being forced into a corner, They seemed unsure whether he would be able to pass through the current floor. This is his limit. Palace Master Ming Xin snorted in secret. Xian Yi shook his head while watching the scene. He had the same thought. However, in the next moment, to their surprise, Jian Wushuang closed his eyes after merging his two original bodies into one, yet he was still able to repel the puppet fighters. Upon seeing this, they quickly understood that Jian Wushuang had gained some insight into sword principle. This boy has gained some insight in sword principle. He received insight at such a critical moment. The experts were rather baffled. Then, right at that very moment, they saw Jian Wushuang open his eyes and defeat a puppet fighter with a single strike. Upon seeing that strike, all the experts, including Xian Yi, were amazed. Sword Heart. Chapter 675, Sword Heart. Chapter 675, Sword Heart. Sword Heart. Inside the large palace, all the experts were currently silent. The weakest among these experts was a superior divine realm expert, who appeared to be so insightful and be able to could see through the swordsmanship Jian Wushuang was performing, including the great change that just occurred in his movements. They were also well aware of the reason for the change. It was because they knew it that they understood how incredible it was. How is that possible? Sword Heart. It's really Sword Heart. Even most of the experts in the Eternal Realm who are good at sword principle have not reached the level of condensing a sword heart. As for Divine Realm experts, a Divine Realm expert that can condense a sword heart is already considered to be terrifyingly successful. But, this boy. He is currently in the skyscraping realm. A skyscraping realm expert that can condense a sword heart? Even Palace Master Ming Xin, who always frowned at Jian Wushuang, was greatly surprised at the moment. In the firmament territory or even the whole eternal world, a divine realm expert who had condensed a sword heart would count as a super genius. But there were so few of them in the entire eternal world, and the firmament territory had even fewer. How could a kid in the skyscraping realm condense a sword heart? It was unbelievable. But Jian Wushuang did it. He really was just in the skyscraping realm and he was still young, but his swordsmanship had reached the level where he could condense a sword heart. All the experts there were in shock. Like Mo Dao, who was good at meditating on the slaughter Dao and wanted to take Jian Wushuang as his personal disciple. He said hurriedly, "Fortunately, he refused me. With my ability, I was definitely not qualified to be his master." Mo Dao sighed, "Even though I have a profound understanding of the slaughter Dao, my field of vision is rather narrow. I've tried my best but only reached the eternal realm. So, I suppose I would only have wasted his talent at my level. In the entire ancient sect, I'm afraid Xian Yi is the only one who is qualified to instruct him." The experts in the palace all looked at Xian Yi. "Congratulations, Palace Master Xian Yi. You've accepted a good disciple. Xian Yi, this little fellow is so talented. With your guidance, he will definitely achieve a lot in the future." A kid in the skyscraping realm actually condensed his sword heart. His understanding of sword principle must be far higher than that of his comprehension of the world Dao and slaughter Dao. It is indeed the best choice for him to be apprenticed to Xian Yi. Hearing those compliments, Xian Yi smiled softly but said nothing. Even he felt a bit shocked deep down. The boy has given me two big surprises in rapid succession. They really were two big surprises. The first surprise was the burst of power that Jian Wushuang released. It was far stronger than anyone at the same level. The second was when he condensed his sword heart. Attention, everyone. Although my disciple is still at the skyscraping realm, his battle strength is only slightly weaker than normal divine realm experts. So he is qualified to cultivate my secret skills, Xian Yi said plainly. On hearing that, all the experts glanced questioningly at one another. In the ancient sect, there were many secret skills which were restricted because they were closely related to the foundation of the ancient sect and its enormous power. According to rules in the ancient sect, only disciples who reached the divine realm could cultivate these secret skills. However, there was no rule that did not have an exception. Sure, Jian Wushuang was only in the skyscraping realm, but his battle strength was about the same as a common divine realm expert. Also, the amazing talent displayed by Jian Wushuang had completely conquered these experts. Yes. Many experts nodded. Even Palace Master Ming Xin, who was not very fond of Jian Wushuang, still nodded reluctantly. In addition, since he has condensed his sword heart, it won't take long for him to fully grasp the third sword scar. Once he does, he will be qualified to become my personal disciple, at which point I'll take him to cultivate at Sword Mountain, Xianyi continued. Sword Mountain? All the experts' attention was immediately caught by these words, but each of them just nodded. After seeing this, Xianyi smiled satisfactorily and returned to watching the image in front of him. The current image was of Jian Wushuang continuing his journey to the next floor. After condensing his sword heart, Jian Wushuang's battle strength had improved several times. At the same time, his swordsmanship was more profound and delicate, which was completely different than before. After passing through the 27th floor, he appeared on the 28th floor. The 10 puppet fighters on the 28th floor were slightly stronger than those on the 27th floor, but not much stronger. However, with his swordsmanship, Jian Wushuang easily passed through it. The puppet fighters on the 29th floor were able to pressure Jian Wushuang somewhat, but only a little bit. After short struggle, he passed through the 29th floor as well. The battle strength of puppet fighters on the 30th layer was another notch higher than those of the 29th floor. On the 30th floor, Jian Wushuang was forced to use his full strength. By releasing both of his original bodies, maximizing his sword heart, and using the full potential of his body, Jian Wushuang finally managed to pass through this floor. The 31st floor. It was also the final layer of the 9th Heaven Road. Reaching this floor meant that Jian Wushuang had basically reached the peak of the mountain, only one step away from the true summit. However, this last step was as difficult as going to heaven. In the 9th Heaven Road, every 5 floors was considered a small threshold and every 15 floors was regarded as a large milestone. Going from the 30th to the 31st floor meant arriving at the final floor of the 9th Heaven Road, and it was the most difficult floor by far. The 10 puppet fighters on the 31st floor were much stronger than those on the previous floor. Jian Wushuang was even afraid that one of the puppet fighters on the 31st floor could battle with the 10 puppet fighters on the 30th floor. It felt like a single puppet fighter on the 31st floor was equivalent to 10 puppet fighters from the previous floor. The 10 puppet fighters joined hands and worked closely with each other. After only 2 exchanges, both of his original bodies had been defeated. In the end, Jian Wushuang was forced to stop at the 31st floor. This result did not surprise the ancient sect experts at all. The battle strength of each puppet fighter on the 31st floor of the 9th Heaven Road was the same as a peak intermediate divine realm expert. If the 10 puppet fighters worked together, the average advanced divine realm expert might not even be able to win. The boy really is terrific. However, in the end, he is still only in the skyscraping realm, so his battle strength is weaker than an advanced divine realm expert. Being able to make it that far already proves he is incredibly powerful. If he is given a little more time to fully grasp the 4th occult of the world Dao and Slaughter Dao, and to cultivate another secret skill, combined with his sword heart, he is likely to pass through the 31st floor. But, for now, it's still too soon. The experts sighed. Chapter 676, Dumbstruck. Chapter 676, Dumbstruck. At the huge martial arts practice field, many of the ancient sect disciples, including the 19 disciples who had come back from the 9th Heaven Road, were still waiting. As soon as Jian Wushuang walked out of the wormhole, numerous eyes gazed straight at him. He stayed in the 9th Heaven Road for so long. Luo Yong and Donga must have made it the farthest, but they didn't stay in the 9th Heaven Road as long as Jian Wushuang. He did stay for a long time, but it doesn't mean he made it farther in the 9th Heaven Road. Well, see. Vice Palace Master Ling, you will announce the result later. I'm afraid Jian Wushuang could still lose his position as an inner disciple. The onlookers discussed unanimously. Jian Wushuang ignored the eyes on him and walked straight towards the other 19 geniuses. Jian Wushuang, Feng looked at him and continued to ask, "How many floors did you pass through? What about you?" Jian Wushuang wasn't in a hurry to answer the question. "I made it through the 20th floor, but was stopped at the 21st floor, Feng said. "I made it to a floor a little higher than you," Jian Wushuang said and smiled. "Oh. Then, You passed the 21st floor? Feng cast a confused look at him. Since he said he'd passed through more floors, that meant Jian Wushuang must have passed through the 21st floor. Terrific. Feng gave Jian Wushuang a thumbs up. I thought with my improvements over the past 2 years that I could have caught up to you, but it seems I was too arrogant. It doesn't matter though. I believe I can catch up to you someday. After hearing his words, Jian Wushuang's complexion turned odd. At this time, Vice Palace Master Ling Yu received the results for Jian Wushuang and others who entered the 9th Heaven Road. Now, I'm going to announce the results, Ling Yu continued. Hu Ying, the 15th floor. Ling Yu announced the results according to the order in which the 20 disciples exited the 9th Heaven Road. With Hu Ying being the weakest among the 20 disciples, it was only natural that he was also the first one to exit the 9th Heaven Road, which resulted in his name being the first one announced. When he noticed all the strange looks that focused on him, his face turned red from embarrassment and bitterness. Zhong Ying, the 17th floor. Yuan Hai, the 17th floor. Xinlan, the 17th floor. Other than Hu Ying, who had only passed the 15th floor, the weakest one among the other disciples had passed the 17th floor of 9th Heaven Road. But there were only 4 people who were stopped after the 17th floor. Most of the others made it through the 18th or 19th floor. Xia Feng, the 20th floor. Zhun Yi, the 21st floor. Feng, the 20th floor. At this point, the surrounding disciples couldn't help looking at Feng secretly as they marveled at him unanimously. It had only been 2 years since Feng joined the ancient sect. When he first arrived at the ancient sect, his understanding of the Tao was quite poor, but after 2 years, he made an impressive amount of progress that even shocked many of the ancient sect disciples. Feng had made it past the 20th floor, which meant he was much stronger than Hu Ying, so he would be able to keep his position as an inner disciple. Ling Yu continued announcing the names and quickly reached the last few places. Luo Yong, the 24th floor. Donga, the 24th floor. The surrounding disciples listened carefully to the results. When they heard that both Luo Yong and Donga had passed through the 24th floor, these disciples sighed secretly. Among the disciples who had been mentioned previously, the best one had only passed through the 21st floor. However, Luo Yong and Donga both had passed through the 24th floor, which meant they'd skipped 3 levels. It was really admirable. However, they all knew that Luo Yong and Donga were much stronger than the other disciples because they had fully grasped the 4th occult. It was quite normal for them to reach a higher floor. After the results for Luo Yong and Donga were announced, there was only one name left to be announced among the 20 disciples. The one left was Jian Wushuang. A majority of the surrounding disciples really wanted to hear his result. After all, Jian Wushuang had a high aptitude and had drawn a lot of attention ever since he arrived at the ancient sect. He even became apprenticed to Palace Master Xian Yi as a nominal disciple, which obviously made him stand out even more. Jian Wushuang, the A. Ling Yu was about to announce the result, but she was suddenly dumbstruck by what she saw. What's wrong? Many of the disciples looked at Ling Yu in confusion. How? How is that possible? Ling Yu stared fiercely at the result in disbelief, but the result was sent from the palace and she'd confirmed it was the final result. After thinking about it, Ling Yu could not help looking at Jian Wushuang with an extremely complicated expression. Then, under the gazes of the other disciples, she slowly announced the result, by her voice betrayed her excitement. Jian Wushuang, the 30th floor. After announcing the result, Ling Yu breathed a sigh of relief. The martial arts practice field was bustling with people discussing the 20 disciples' performance inside the 9th Heaven Road, but when they heard Jian Wushuang's result, everyone immediately stiffened. Luo Yong, who had bronze-colored skin and an air of fierceness that resembled a fierce beast, folded his arms. The burly man stood there with a poker face. He had absolute confidence in his own strength since Head tried his best. He was convinced that no one in this competition could overshadow him. Even though Donga reached the same level of understanding in the Tao as he did and they had both passed through the 24th floor, Luo Yong believed Donga's performance was still inferior to his because he had put up a desperate fight with the 10 puppet fighters on the 25th floor. But, at this moment, he heard Ling Yu say, Jian Wushuang, The 30th floor. What? Luo Yong looked up and immediately glanced at Zhen Wushuang. It's been less than 2 years since he came to the ancient sect. How is it possible for him to pass through the 30th floor of the 9th Heaven Road? Excuse me, Vice Palace Master Ling Yu? Did you read it wrong? Maybe he just passed through the 23rd floor? Luo Yong asked abruptly. Dong, Feng, and many of the other disciples who entered the 9th Heaven Road, as well as the other people on the martial arts practice field, were staring at Ling Yu. They all believed Ling Yu had read it wrong. However, Ling Yu shook her head and said with assurance, Zhen Wushuang passed the 30th floor, you heard me correctly. Ling Yu confirmed it once again so that no one would doubt it. At hearing that, all the ancient sect disciples became shocked. Chapter 677, Personal Disciple. Chapter 677, Personal Disciple. The drill ground was completely silent. The 30th floor? Almost no one could believe what they heard. Even the two geniuses, Luo Yong and Dong, looked at Zhen Wushuang in astonishment. It had been several decades since they arrived at the ancient sect and they were convinced they'd made great progress over the years. But their results were nothing when compared to Zhen Wushuang. They couldn't even be compared. He'd passed through 30 of the 31 floors in the 9th Heaven Road. There was only one floor left for Zhen Wushuang to pass. It had only been 2 years since Zhen Wushuang joined the ancient sect. Zhen Wushuang, you. Feng, who stood beside Zhen Wushuang, looked as if he had seen a ghost. He knew that Zhen Wushuang had passed through more floors because he had asked him, but he only thought Zhen Wushuang got through the 21st floor. So, he was not that discouraged and believed he could catch up to him in the future. But now, he hears that it was the 30th floor, 10 floors ahead of him. In the past 2 years, he thought he had caught up with Zhen Wushuang, but now he realized the gap between Zhen Wushuang and him had only grown larger, far more than he could handle. The 10-year ancient sect competition came to an end. And, with that, the 10 places for inner disciple had been decided. Both Zhen Wushuang and Feng kept their positions as inner disciples and only Huiying lost his position and became an outer disciple. However, even though the sect competition had come to an end, there was still a heated discussion going on about Zhen Wushuang. It was a hot topic among the disciples at first, but the heated discussions finally began to die down after several days. Zhen Wushuang brushed aside those voices. After the sect competition finished, he immediately headed to Sword Palace and began meditating in front of the stone tablet in front of Sword Tower. Zhen Wushuang had already grasped the second of the 3 sword scars left by Xian Yi and had become his nominal disciple. As for the third scar, the third sword scar fused all 9 sword movements from the first sword scar into one, which was 1,000 times more difficult than the second sword scar. As Zhen Wushuang was meditating, his cultivation in sword principle had increasingly improved. It didn't mean that he couldn't grasp the third sword scar, but he had no idea where to begin. It had only been recently that he finally condensed his sword heart. Now that his sword heart was condensed, he looked at the 3 sword scars again. But, now they looked completely different to him. Previously, he couldn't even figure out where to start while looking at the third sword scar. But now, with just a simple glimpse, he suddenly felt inspired. Half a month later. Crash. A sword light flew out and rushed through the empty space ahead. It seemed to move without making noise or disturbing the surroundings, but right after the sword light passed through the area, there was a series of explosions. Boom. Boom. This sword seemed to be a combination of many occults, which resulted in terribly enormous power. When performed, it was even more powerful than the superior rank 3 secret skill he created, Violet Devastation Sword Skill. What a frightening sword strike! Zhen Wushuang raised the heart-killing sword in his hand, looking at a series of overwhelming swordsmanship movements in front, with his eyes displaying a slight shade of shock. This sword strike was so frightening that Zhen Wushuang even believed it was much more powerful than a rank 4 secret skill. It was definitely a powerful killing move. Have you grasped it? Suddenly, a soft floating voice sounded beside him. Zhen Wushuang looked next to him and realized that Xian Yi had suddenly appeared by his side. Master, Zhen Wushuang immediately bowed and said. Xian Yi stepped forward slowly, then stopped less than a meter away from Jian Wushuang. When you condensed your sword heart on the Ninth Heaven Road, I knew that it wouldn't take you long to grasp the 3 sword scars IIFT behind, but it's only been half a month. A mild smile grew on Shen Yi's face as he continued. I made a rule: if anyone below the Eternal Realm fully grasps my 3 sword scars, they can become my personal disciple. Since you've succeeded, from this day on you will be my 4th personal disciple. The 4th personal disciple? It seemed to appeal Jian Wushuang. In the 2 years he spent in the ancient sect, he'd never heard that Shen Yi had other personal disciples. Many disciples of Sword Palace said that there was nobody who had fully comprehended all 3 of the sword scars left by Shen Yi, but now, you do have 3 senior brothers, but they have already left the ancient sect and set off on new adventures. If possible, you will meet them one day, Shen Yi said and smiled. Understood. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly, filled with anticipation at the bottom of his heart. There were very high standards for becoming one of Shen Yi's personal disciples. The other 3 senior brothers should all be extraordinary, so he was looking forward to seeing their abilities someday. Follow me, Shen Yi said. Shen Yi led Jian Wushuang to Sword Tower. Only Jian Wushuang and Shen Yi were left inside Sword Tower. Now that it's only the 2 of us, I have something I want to ask you, Shen Yi said while looking at Jian Wushuang. Master, please ask. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Earlier, at Firmament Territory Feast, I realized you must have received a remarkable opportunity in the ancient world. If not, how is it possible for you to reach your current level and even acquire the doppelganger secret skill in less than 40 years? Shen Yi said. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. After seeing his performance at Firmament Territory Feast, even the experts from every sect could tell that he had received an extraordinary opportunity, let alone Shen Yi, so Jian Wushuang could not deny it. At that time, we didn't have any relationship, so I never asked you about it. After all, everyone has had their own opportunities and I won't interfere with it. But now, since you are my personal disciple, I have to ask about your previous experience, Shen Yi said. Jian Wushuang also understood. As a master, one must have a certain understanding of his disciples' previous experiences. I did have a somewhat outstanding opportunity in the ancient world and I was even lucky enough to be instructed by a super expert, Jian Wushuang said directly. Of course, the super expert he referred to was undoubtedly Emperor Xiao. Ah, I see. Shen Yi seemed to realize something, then he immediately continued, do you have a secret skill for body reshaping? Your foundation seems extraordinarily strong. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded again. I acquired a body reshaping technique called immortality in the ancient world, so my body should be quite strong. As for my foundation, I have to thank the expert's guidance for that. Jian Wushuang didn't intend to reveal anything about the heavenly creation skill, which was his biggest secret. So, the only thing he could do was to place the blame on Emperor Xiao. Immortality secret skill? Shen Yi raised his eyebrows but didn't continue asking about it. As a master, he only needed to know what Jian Wushuang had experienced. There was no need to go into detail about it. Chapter 678, Vibration. Chapter 678, Vibration. Everyone has their own unique opportunities. The fact that you, a little fellow from the ancient world, received such incredible an opportunity, just means that you are very fortunate and blessed, Shen Yi smiled. Now that I know you've acquired the immortality secret skill, I won't ask about it anymore. You can go back first. I need to prepare some secret skills which are suitable for you. In addition, I will help you apply to cultivate at Sword Mountain. Sword Mountain? It seemed to appeal to Jian Wushuang. On the first day he arrived at Sword Palace, he heard about Sword Mountain from Zhu Lai. Sword Mountain was unique to Sword Palace and it was demanding to cultivate there. Sword Mountain was almost a legend in Sword Palace and few people could cultivate there, but apparently, Jian Wushuang had the qualifications now. I'll take my leave then. Jian Wushuang said, then he turned around and left. As Shen Yi watched Jian Wushuang leaving, an enigmatic smile appeared on his face. My disciple is very cautious. His opportunity was by no means as simple as what he said. He is hiding a very big secret, But he won't even tell me about it. Xian Yi murmured, but he didn't blame his disciple. On the contrary, a strong appreciation could be seen flickering in his eyes. Since it was a big secret, it was better if fewer people knew about it. If Jian Wushuang told him the secret easily, it would definitely disappoint him. The little fellow is superb, both in talent and wisdom. He is a real diamond in the rough. Once he is polished, he will be able to achieve a lot in the future. As for the polishing, it will not be that difficult. The very moment he became my personal disciple, the polishing had already started. Haha, if Cloud Sea Asgard, the Immortal Dynasty, and the Boundless Demon Sect knew that I've taken Jian Wushuang as my personal disciple, I'm afraid the three magnates would explode. Not long after Jian Wushuang grasped the 3 sword scars left by Xian Yi, the news that Xian Yi had taken him as his personal disciple had spread throughout the ancient sect. At that time, the whole ancient sect was in shock. The ancient sect disciples were aghast. Since Xian Yi was one of the oldest, most mysterious, and most powerful palace masters, everyone dreamed of being apprenticed to him. It was a pity though, the requirement for becoming his disciple was just too demanding. After so many years, no one had met the standards set by Xian Yi, and these ancient sect disciples didn't know that Xian Yi already had other personal disciples. In their eyes, Xian Yi had finally accepted a personal disciple. Immediately after that, countless ancient sect disciples began to admire Jian Wushuang for having such a powerful master whom everyone dreamed of apprenticing to. As for experts in the ancient sect, they remained calm after hearing this news. They knew that Jian Wushuang had condensed his sword heart and that the 3rd sword scar would no longer be a challenge for him. It was obvious that Jian Wushuang would be able to grasp the 3rd sword scar and became the personal disciple of Xian Yi. However, they never expected him to succeed as quickly as he did and only use half a month to comprehend it. The news of Xian Yi accepting a personal disciple didn't just shock the ancient sect though. It even created a great disturbance within the entire Firmament territory. One of the 3 magnates of the Firmament territory, Cloud Sea Asgard. At the center of a huge immortal mansion inside the Cloud Sea Asgard sect, dozens of elders had gathered, led by a gray-haired and barefoot elder with a baby face. This barefoot elder was Yun Fan, the great elder of Cloud Sea Asgard. I just heard news from the ancient sect that Xian Yi accepted a personal disciple today, and the disciple is the well-known Jian Wushuang. Yun Fan looked rather grim. Normally, if someone else accepted a personal disciple, it had nothing to do with him or Cloud Sea Asgard. But it was wholly different when Xian Yi accepted a personal disciple. All of Cloud Sea Asgard attached great importance to it when Xian Yi accepted a personal disciple. After hearing what Yun Fan said, these elders looked grim, as well. I've found out some information about Jian Wushuang. He is a peerless genius from the ancient world who just recently appeared in Firmament Territory Feast 2 years ago, Yun Fan continued. Although he came from the ancient world, he gave an impressive performance at Firmament Territory Feast. At that time, he was already incredibly powerful. He had spent less than 40 years cultivating, and he had only been in the skyscraping realm for less than a year. He is only slightly inferior when compared with Gong Chao. After hearing that, all the elders were shocked. Gong Chao was currently a disciple of their Cloud Sea Asgard. They were all aware of his talent and strength. However, Jian Wushuang, who cultivated for less than 40 years and came from the ancient world, was evenly matched with Gong Chao. It was completely unbelievable. After Jian Wushuang arrived at the ancient sect, he quickly demonstrated his amazing talent in sword principle and became apprenticed to Xian Yi as a nominal disciple. Not long after ago, he took part in their sect competition and managed to pass through 30 floors of the 9th Heaven Road in one go. It's truly incredible. Yun Fan clasped his hands. The 30th floor of the 9th Heaven Road. These elders marveled at such a result. They all knew about the 9th Heaven Road, which was composed of 31 floors. It was unimaginable that a kid in the skyscraping realm could pass the 30th floor. According to the information we have, Jian Wushuang is still in the skyscraping realm, but he has already condensed his sword heart. After condensing his sword heart, it only took him half a month to comprehend the 3rd sword scar left by Xian Yi. After that, Xian Yi agreed to accept him as a personal disciple. Yun Fan said, then remained silent for a while. After that moment of silence, he raised his head and glanced around with a very grim look in his eyes. Everyone, all of you know how terrifying Xian Yi is, and it's not just because of his own strength. The most important part is his ability to instruct his disciples. Before Jian Wushuang, he already had 3 personal disciples, whose achievements are known by all of us. These elders of Cloud Sea Asgard also stayed silent. The 3 personal disciples Xian Yi instructed. Immediately, 3 figures appeared in their minds. At the mere thought of them, they all trembled in fear. Xian Yi. He is a complete and utter monster, so the disciples he instructs will definitely be monstrous as well. His first 3 personal disciples have made incredibly fast progress. I don't even need to comment on it. You all understand how terrifying the 3 of them are. Any one of them is strong enough to threaten the entire Cloud Sea Asgard. And now, Jian Wushuang, who spent less than 40 years cultivating, possesses a strength that is almost equal to Gong Chao, and condensed his sword heart while still in the skyscraping realm, probably has even higher talent than those other 3 personal disciples. Chapter 679, Kill. Chapter 679, Kill. What Yun Fan said shocked the experts of Cloud Sea Asgard. After hearing his words, they all realized that Jian Wushuang's talent was far better than Xian Yi's previous 3 personal disciples. Damn it, Jian Wushuang should have been our disciple. That's Xian Yi's fault. With a resentful face, Shi Qianhan clasped his hands. Previously, during the Firmament Territory Feast, he had invited Jian Wushuang to join Cloud Sea Asgard. However, Jian Wushuang refused. At that moment, Xian Yi's doppelganger cut him in 2 and made him become a laughingstock. He had already been mad at him, but he was even angrier now that he knew Jian Wushuang had become Xian Yi's personal disciple. The ancient sect is already very strong, Yun Fan continued. We can't let it continue to grow. We also can't let Jian Wushuang follow in his senior brother's footsteps. He is still young and not that strong yet, so we need to kill him as soon as possible. When they heard that, all the elders were shocked. It was common to assassinate the geniuses from the other sects in the Firmament Territory. If a sect had some excellent geniuses, they would usually become a target and other sects would try to kill them. And, since Cloud Sea Asgard was the #1 sect in the Firmament Territory, they had a lot of pride. They always looked down on these sneaky actions. Even when the geniuses from the other 2 magnates, the Immortal Dynasty and the Boundless Demon Sect, were a threat to them, they still never attempted to assassinate them. But now, Great Elder Yun Fan was planning to kill Jian Wushuang, which showed how much he feared Xian Yi and Jian Wushuang. The threat from Xian Yi's personal disciples was far more terrifying than the geniuses from the Immortal Dynasty and Boundless Demon Sect. Jian Wushuang must die. But we need to do it secretly, in a way that the ancient sect won't discover. After all, it's hard to deal with their palace master, Xian Yi, Yun Fan said solemnly. As soon as Yun Fan's words faded, an elder instantly suggested, the Eternal Zone will start soon. That will be a good opportunity. Jian Wushuang is very talented, so he will definitely enter the Eternal Zone. There will be plenty of chances for us to kill him. The Eternal Zone. Yun Fan intrigued and nodded. I would have forgotten about that if you hadn't mentioned it. The Eternal Zone happens every century. The next time will be in a few years. If we're going to take part in the Eternal Zone, we need to start preparing for it as soon as possible. The other elders all nodded to express their agreement. The Eternal Zone was not only a good opportunity for the disciples, but also for the elders in the Eternal Realm. For instance, Yun Fan received an incredible opportunity in the Eternal Zone that greatly increased his strength and allowed him to become a great elder. As for Jian Wushuang, when the Eternal Zone begins, we can look for a chance to kill him. At that same moment, in the Immortal Dynasty, Jian Wushuang has become Xian Yi's personal disciple. The kid has condensed his sword heart while still in the skyscraping realm. That's already incredible. What kind of monster is Xian Yi going to train? The ancient sect is only one of the top sects, but since Xian Yi has already trained 3 monsters, it has already surpassed the 3 magnates. Now he is planning to train a 4th disciple. We can't let Jian Wushuang get stronger, otherwise the ancient sect will be superior to us. The Boundless Demon Sect. We must kill Jian Wushuang before he becomes stronger, but we can't let Xian Yi find out. Otherwise, if he gets mad, no one knows what would happen. Think of a way to frame Cloud Sea Asgard or the Immortal Dynasty. Simply put, Jian Wushuang must die, but we can't be the ones to kill him. When the three magnates, Cloud Sea Asgard, the Immortal Dynasty, and the Boundless Demon Sect, found out that Jian Wushuang had become Xian Yi's personal disciples, they all acted calmly on the surface, but they secretly made plans. As Xian Yi said, the three magnates couldn't calm down after they heard that Jian Wushuang had become his personal disciple. However, they were scared of Xian Yi, so none of them dared to do anything out in the open. The ancient sect looked the same as always. The second day after Jian Wushuang became Xian Yi's personal disciple, Xian Yi took him to Sword Mountain. Sword Mountain was inside the ancient sect. There were numerous towering mountains in the ancient sect, and Sword Mountain was hidden among them. It was in the center, surrounded by several towering mountains, so it didn't stand out when compared to the others. When Jian Wushuang saw it, it seemed shorter than others and he didn't notice anything special about it. However, when he got close, he realized this mountain was covered by a restriction that stretched from the bottom to the top. Follow me. Xian Yi launched several palms at the restriction to open it, then they continued towards Sword Mountain. Even after they arrived at the top of Sword Mountain, Jian Wushuang still didn't sense anything special about it. It was just like a normal mountain. However, once they entered a cave mansion, Jian Wushuang instantly sensed an incredible sword essence that filled the whole cave mansion. This sword essence was profound and seemed to encompass everything. What a powerful sword essence! This sword essence includes many different aspects of sword principle. It's like a sea that was created by hundreds of rivers. Jian Wushuang thought secretly. When he arrived at the core of the cave mansion, Jian Wushuang, look at those stone walls, Xian Yi said with a smile. Jian Wushuang immediately looked at the stone walls and his expression changed abruptly. There were lots of Dao characters on it, but all of them looked exactly the same. However, Jian Wushuang had condensed his sword heart, so he looked more closely at the Dao characters. At that point, he realized that they were all unique. This is. When Jian Wushuang looked at the Dao character in front of him, it looked like a simple word at first, but it slowly transformed into a complete and extreme sword principle. Chapter 680, Sword Mountain. Chapter 680, Sword Mountain. It was a very advanced sword principle. Since Jian Wushuang only had superficial knowledge, he was unable to comprehend most of it. Very profound. Jian Wushuang shook his head and looked at some of the other Dao characters, but they were also too profound for him to understand. Finally, Xian Yi began to explain. Sword principle is quite broad and profound, and you've just recently condensed your sword heart, which is only the starting line for truly cultivating sword principle. Sword principle is very complicated. Because of that, it is divided into 72 concepts which are like 72 rivers joining to form a sea. If you only understand one concept, you can only comprehend a tiny part of sword principle. So, if you want to truly comprehend sword principle, you have to completely understand all 72 concepts. For now, you still have a long journey ahead of you, Xian Yi said and smiled. After hearing this, Jian Wushuang shrugged, but he didn't feel depressed. He was still very young, so he had time to cultivate and meditate on sword principle. As of now, he had only just reached the most basic requirement. However, if he had enough time, it would be very possible for him to comprehend all of them. There are 72 Dao characters in this cave mansion, and every one of them represents the pinnacle in a concept of sword principles. Every Dao character represents one of the essences of sword principle. So now, what you need to do is try your best to comprehend them and improve your understanding of sword principle. Compared to cultivating on your own, this will be easier and more effective, Xian Yi said. After hearing that, Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. If he tried to cultivate sword principle on his own, even with Xian Yi's guidance, there would still be a limit on how much he could improve. However, if he had the essences that make up sword principle as a reference, it would be a different story. These 72 Tao characters encompassed all the different concepts of sword principle and broke them down to their most basic form. Being able to use this would be the same as taking an incredibly difficult task and breaking it into numerous simple tasks. It might be impossible for him to complete such a difficult task. But, if they were broken up into numerous simple tasks, he could work on them one step at a time. At the same time, he would be slowly improving his comprehension of sword principle. Doing it this way made it much easier to handle. Is this sword mountain? Jian Wushuang was very excited as he clasped his hands. He knew the requirement for entering Sword Mountain was very high, so he expected it to be an exceptional place for cultivating. To his great surprise, it was much more incredible than he expected because it was tailor-made for warriors who cultivated sword principle. As long as he meditated on these 72 Tao characters, his comprehension of sword principle would definitely improve. Although the requirement to enter is high, there is no time limit once you enter. You can stay here for as long as you want. Also, there are a few things I would like to give to you, Shen Yi said. Jian Wushuang looked at him. Previously, Shen Yi had told him that he would apply for some resources to give him. The first is a secret skill. Shen Yi said, secret skills are very powerful, but the cultivation requirements are also very high. Most secret skills that can improve physical power require the warrior to be in the divine realm. However, you are only in the skyscraping realm, so you can't use those skills yet. However, I will give some that you can cultivate and are useful for you. The first secret skill is a sword art. Shen Yi said and then handed a jade slip to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang accepted it and took a quick glance at it. Boundless Heaven Sword Art? Jian Wushuang felt a rush of excitement in his heart. This jade slip recorded the Boundless Heaven Sword Art, which was a very powerful secret skill. There was a total of 7 sword movements and the power was quite terrifying. Moreover, the Boundless Heaven Sword Art utilized both sword principle and Tao comprehension, which made it a very versatile skill. As long as he reached the minimum requirement, he could even use the Boundless Heaven Sword Art with either the World Tao or Slaughter Tao. This secret skill is different from a self-created one. Those can be used to attack, defend, and movement since self-created skills will suit you perfectly. However, secret skills such as sword arts, saber techniques, and stick technique are killing moves. If you look at the Boundless Heaven Sword Art, it contains 7 sword moves that are all killing moves. It requires tremendous spiritual power to use them, but the power will be greater than a self-created skill. On top of that, you've already reached the requirement for learning the first move, Shen Yi said. I've reached the requirement for learning the first move? Jian Wushuang was shocked but quickly understood the reason. The last sword scar from the 3 that master has left is the requirement. Yes. Shen Yi smiled and nodded. That sword imitates the first move of the Boundless Heaven Sword Art. However, it is only an imitation, so it can't compare with the real first move. After hearing that, Jian Wushuang was stunned. He had comprehended and practiced the 3rd sword scar. Its power was already terrifying and much powerful than the superior rank 3 secret skill that he created, Violet Star Destruction. Since it was only an imitation of the first move of the Boundless Heaven Sword Art, its power would be far weaker than the original. How powerful would the first move be? The Boundless Heaven Sword Art can improve your offensive power, but the most important thing for a warrior is to protect themselves, so I also acquired a protective skill for you, the Dragon Blood Secret Skill. It is a skill that will help you escape by increasing your speed for a short time. However, it burns your spiritual power to achieve this, so this skill should only be used to escape, not to fight. You should study it carefully. Shen Yi handed the second jade slip to Jian Wushuang. It requires you to burn your spiritual power? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Spiritual power was the core of a warrior's power. To burn their spiritual power? It was very unlikely that anyone in the eternal world would dare to do that. Finally, I have one more secret skill, a very unique skill, Shen Yi said as he handed a golden scroll to Jian Wushuang. This scroll was a golden jade slip that gave off an ancient aura. Jian Wushuang took it and quickly skimmed through it. Universal Tao Scripture. Chapter 681, Universal Tao Scripture. Chapter 681, Universal Tao Scripture. Universal Tao Scripture? Jian Wushuang frowned. This golden scroll recorded a secret skill called the Universal Tao Scripture. This secret skill described the method for cultivating, but it didn't explain what it actually did. You must be patient and cultivate it. Later on, you will understand how useful it is, Shen Yi answered with a hint of mystery. Although Jian Wushuang was confused, he still nodded. He didn't know how useful this secret skill would be, but it was obvious by looking at the cultivation method that it wouldn't harm him. Moreover, he wasn't worried about it because it was given to him by his master. In addition to these three, I know you've also cultivated the immortality secret skill. Shen Yi looked at Jian Wushuang. Usually, it's better to cultivate while using natural treasures that improve your physical strength, so I've acquired some for you. They are all in this interspatial ring. Shen Yi handed the interspatial ring to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was surprised and happy when he saw it. There were 4 techniques in the immortality secret skill: the bone fusion technique, blood condensation technique, armor technique, and divine body technique. When he was in the ancient world, he had already finished cultivating the bone fusion technique. However, he hadn't started on the blood condensation technique because he lacked natural treasures. Now, he would be able to start cultivating it and even try to reach the advanced level. As his physical body grew stronger, his strength would also skyrocket. I've done what I can. Now, everything else will depend on you, Shen Yi said. Thank you, Master. Jian Wushuang expressed his gratitude. Shen Yi waved and left while Jian Wushuang stayed in the cave mansion. As he looked at the 72 Tao characters on the stone wall, a spark flashed through Jian Wushuang's eyes. Master has obtained all these resources for me, but how much I can improve depends on myself. I need to work hard. He immediately sat down with his legs crossed, then his figure vibrated and instantly separated into his 2 original bodies. Sword Principle, Sword. His 2 original bodies started to meditate. Since these 2 original bodies both had their own consciousness, they were able to meditate on different Tao characters which sped up the process. Moreover, he had good talent in Sword Principle and the Tao characters had been simplified, so it was much easier for him to meditate on them. As time flew by, his comprehension of Sword Principle continued improving. While meditating on Sword Principle, he was also working on the World Tao, the Slaughter Tao, and the other 3 secret skills that Shen Yi gave to him. Among these 3 secret skills, the Boundless Heaven Sword Art required a higher level of comprehension in Sword Principle. As for the Dragon Blood secret skill, he only needed to know the method for burning his spiritual power, the rest would be easy. There were 2 levels for this skill. For the first level, spiritual power was burned slowly and his speed could increase to 10 times his normal speed. However, for the second level, spiritual power was burned at an incredible rate, so even a divine realm expert would only last about 10 breaths before their spiritual power was completely exhausted. However, while he was burning his spiritual power, his speed would be hundreds of times faster than usual, so it was the perfect skill for escaping. As for the Universal Tao Scripture, this was a unique secret skill. Jian Wushuang spent a long time studying it before he finally started to cultivate it. However, he didn't notice any difference after completing the cultivation. Perhaps it was like Shen Yi said, he would have to wait to understand its benefits. Jian Wushuang focused his attention and meditate at Sword Mountain, totally ignored the passage of time. From spring to winter, time flew by. Without him realizing it, 6 years had passed. At the ancient sect, inside the Tao Palace, many disciples had gathered together and were participating in small talk. Did you hear? 3 days ago, Feng, the personal disciple of Palace Master Destruction, broke through and became a divine realm expert. And, since his comprehension of Tao is very high, he has already become an advanced divine realm expert. In the future, if he cultivates even more secret skills, he is almost guaranteed to become a superior divine realm expert. Superior divine realm expert, that's the same level as the Vice Palace Master level of the Tao Palace. Yes, Feng really has good talent. Lots of disciples were impressed by the news. After considering their levels of Tao comprehension, weapon cultivation, original secret skills, and some other means, divine realm experts had been divided into 4 levels: novice, intermediate, advanced, and superior. However, there was a huge gap between each level. Even 10 novice divine realm experts working together to fight an intermediate divine realm expert would be overpowered. But, even novice divine realm experts could have big differences in strength between each other. An advanced divine realm expert was already counted as a high-level expert. As for superior divine realm experts, in the ancient sect, there were numerous divine realm experts. The Divine Palace had hundreds of novice, intermediate, and advanced divine realm experts, but only a few superior divine realm experts. Usually, a superior divine realm expert could be a vice palace master of the Tao Palace. Feng had been in the ancient sect for no more than 10 years, but he had already broken through and become an advanced divine realm expert. That was really amazing because most of the disciples would only be novice divine realm experts when they broke through. A few of them could even reach intermediate divine realm in battle strength, but only a couple would possess battle strength at the advanced divine realm level. Feng has broken through and become a divine realm expert, but what about Jian Wushuang? They came to the ancient sect at the same time and his talent is better than Feng's, so he should have reached an even more amazing level, a disciple suddenly said. Jian Wushuang? I don't know. I heard he has been cultivating at Sword Mountain for several years. It's very seldom that he comes back to Enlightenment Mountain and he hasn't challenged anyone, so no one knows how strong he is. However, he has definitely improved a lot. Even if he still can't break through to the divine realm, he will not be weaker than Feng. Yes. After only being in the ancient sect for 2 years, he could already pass the 30th floor of the 9th heaven road. Now, he is the personal disciple of Palace Master Shen Yi, so he should have made some extremely significant improvements. Chapter 682, Prove Yourself. Chapter 682, Prove Yourself. As the disciples were talking about Jian Wushuang, they couldn't help being amazed. Jian Wushuang had already become a monster in the ancient sect the moment he passed the 30th floor of the 9th heaven road during the sect competition. The Sword Mountain was still not noticeable. Whoosh! A figure appeared in the sky above Sword Mountain. The figure turned out to be Shen Yi. He glanced at the cave mansion and smiled, then entered it. Jian Wushuang had his eyes closed and was still in the middle of practicing his swordsmanship. Though it's being referred to as swordsmanship, it was actually just a simple sword slash. It was simple, easy, and quick. But when Shen Yi saw it, he smiled. Going from complexity to simplicity, that is the proof of having reached profound realm. He has already comprehended the first level of sword heart. Shen Yi smiled slightly. At that moment, Jian Wushuang stopped and looked at Shen Yi. Master, Jian Wushuang greeted him respectfully. During these 6 years, Shen Yi had come to see him every several times and given him advice on many occasions, so he knew that Shen Yi was trying to help him. Although 6 years was not that long, they had built a deep friendship. You have been meditating in Sword Mountain for 6 years, it's time for you to leave, Shen Yi said with a smile. Jian Wushuang was surprised, but a smile quickly appeared on his face. These 72 Tao characters were indeed very mysterious. In the first couple years of meditating on them, he made dramatic improvements in sword principle. However, his progress eventually began to slow down. Especially recently, his improvement had become very slow. It was still faster than meditating on his own, but compared to when he first started, there was a big difference. Jian Wushuang realized that the 72 Tao characters were less useful now than they were before. In 2 months, the Eternal Zone will reopen, Shen Yi said. The Eternal Zone? Jian Wushuang suddenly looked at Shen Yi in surprise. The Eternal Zone is an important event in the firmament territory that happens every 100 years, Shen Yi explained. When it reopens, lots of disciples from the 3 magnates and 9 top sects will be allowed to enter it. Usually, most of them have broken through to the divine realm and some of them are still pretty young, so the 3 magnates and 9 top sects have an agreement. The disciples in the divine realm only get 1 chance to enter, and every time only a certain number of disciples from each sect are allowed to go. That means the people who enter are the top disciples from all the sects. These geniuses can enter the outer layer of the eternal zone, but only the experts in the eternal realm can enter the inner layer. They can stay there for 1 month, and when the eternal zone closes, the experts all will come out. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly in acknowledgement. He realized that the eternal zone was very unique, otherwise the 3 magnates and 9 top sects wouldn't so pay much attention to it. It's been 100 years already. During this period of time, our ancient sect has found some excellent disciples and you are one of them, so I will arrange for you to enter the eternal zone, Shen Yi said. Me? Jian Wushuang was astonished. According to what Shen Yi said, the disciples who were allowed to enter the eternal zone would already have broken through and become divine realm experts, but he was only in the skyscraping realm. Even though, based on Tao comprehension and other complex skills, he was capable of breaking through to become a divine realm expert, he was not planning to do it right now. After all, the skyscraping realm was the equivalent of the heaven-treading realm in the heavenly creation skill, which was the most appropriate level for cultivating, so he wanted to remain at this level longer. Don't worry. Although you are only in the skyscraping realm, your battle strength is definitely good enough. Ordinary divine realm experts are not qualified to be your opponents. Shen Yi smiled slightly and continued, 6 years ago, you had already passed the 30th floor of the 9th heaven road. At that moment, your battle strength was at the peak of the intermediate divine realm and almost at the advanced divine realm. 6 years have already passed since that time, so you must have had a significant improvement. Just a bit. Jian Wushuang couldn't help laughing. During the last 6 years, he had focused on improving his comprehension of sword principle at Sword Mountain and hadn't paid much attention to the World Dao and Slaughter Dao. However, his talent was pretty high, so even if he only spent a small amount of time meditating on them, his comprehension of these 2 Dao still had a significant improvement. Now, he had already comprehended the 4th occult and most of the 5th. The most important point was that his current understanding of sword principle was completely different from 6 years ago. 6 years ago, he had to do his best to reach the 31st floor of the 9th heaven road, but he was still defeated by the 10 puppet fighters. However, 5 years ago, he passed the 31st floor. Obviously, his strength was at an even higher level now. We of the ancient sect usually arrange for the genius disciples who are in the advanced divine realm to enter the eternal zone, so you only need to prove that you have the battle strength of an advanced divine realm expert. I've got a task from the divine palace for you. This task can help you prove yourself. Shen Yi passed a task scroll to Jian Wushuang. A task. Jian Wushuang opened it and took a quick glance. Immediately after that, he had an odd expression on his face. Earth-level task. In the divine palace, the tasks assigned to the divine realm experts were divided into levels: the human level, earth level, and heaven level. The human level was the easiest, so novice and intermediate divine realm experts were able to complete them easily. However, the earth level tasks were very difficult and only advanced divine realm experts would be capable of completing them. As for the heaven level tasks, they could only be assigned to the superior divine realm experts. Shen Yi got him an earth-level task which was also at a difficult level. Task content: kill 11 evil divine realm experts who are in the vicinity of the ancient sect. The task would only be complete once the 11 divine realm experts were all killed. The scroll contained the information and locations of these 11 divine realm experts. Among these 11 divine realm experts, the weakest one was at the peak of the intermediate divine realm. There were also 5 advanced divine realm experts and one of them, Hu, was a peak advanced divine realm expert. He was not going to be easy to deal with. Chapter 683 Emperor Sword. Chapter 683 Emperor Sword. Master really thinks highly of me as he asks me, a skyscraping realm cultivator, to kill divine realm experts, including 5 advanced divine realm experts. Jian Wushuang sighed with emotions in private. After all, there was a world of difference between beating someone and slaying them. A divine realm expert, especially an advanced expert, often held 1 or 2 secret skills. Some of them were even capable of life-saving secret skills like Dragon Blood secret skill. Jian Wushuang might have the ability to defeat an advanced divine realm expert, but he didn't hold much confidence in slaying one. As though he already knew what Jian Wushuang was thinking, Xian Yi spoke. Rest assured, I personally selected this mission for you. The 11 Divine Realm experts all share the same skill in battle strength. None of them are very capable of life-saving skills. Given your strength, you can surely kill them. Is that so? Jian Wushuang asked, his confidence now growing. If they were unable to perform excellent life-saving techniques, it was possible that he could indeed kill them. This is the map of the territory which is under our ancient sect's control. The 11 Divine Realm experts are within this territory. You can study the route yourself and you must kill them all in 2 months, instructed Xian Yi. Okay. Jian Wushuang took the map and nodded his head. There is one more thing. Xian Yi looked at Jian Wushuang. The sword you're using now was brought by you from the ancient world, correct? It can barely reach the divine weapon level. It is most suited to some novice or intermediate divine realm experts. It's not very suitable for you. Jian Wushuang was in a daze. The sword he used. Heart-killing sword. Indeed, he had brought it from the ancient world after acquiring from a sword ancestor. Divine weapon? Jian Wushuang queried. Above Dao weapon was divine weapon. Plenty of experts used Dao weapons, but there was few divine weapons in the ancient world. It was only thanks to a sword ancestor that Jian Wushuang was eligible to get a divine weapon. He had to this point been using the heart-killing sword effortlessly, but as he grew stronger, he found it was no longer capable of displaying his full strength. I have a sword for you. Take it. Xian Yi stretched out his hand in which appeared a purple long sword. As soon as it showed up, an extremely strong killing intent of the sword spread at once, which instantly made Jian Wushuang understand that the purple longsword was also a sword of killing like his heart-killing sword, but its power was much stronger. Master, what's this? Jian Wushuang gazed upon this purple long sword. Its sword blade was thin and its sword edge was emitting an glowing cold light, making it appear very sharp. This is Emperor Sword, a magic weapon of eternal realm level. Xian Yi smiled casually as he spoke. Divine weapon? Jian Wushuang's heart skipped a beat. There was Dao weapon, divine weapon, and then eternal weapon. Dao weapons were most commonly used by skyscraping realm cultivators. Divine weapons were usually used by divine realm experts. Jian Wushuang's heart-killing sword only just reached the level of divine weapon, therefore it was suited to novice and intermediate divine realm experts. Advanced divine realm experts and superior divine realm experts used divine weapons with superior power. Eternal weapons on the other hand were used by eternal realm expert. This sword contains unusual power. Given your ability now, you cannot harness all of its power, but if you can access just a small amount of it, that will give you enough strength. I also want you to take this token. When on a difficult journey, you'll inevitably encounter a crisis. If all else fails, you can crush this token and I'll do my best to save you, promised Xian Yi. Thank you, Master. Jian Wushuang spoke gratefully. He knew in his heart that his master sincerely cared for him. That's all. Set out as early as possible. Xian Yi waved his hand. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly and bowed respectfully to Xian Yi before turning around to leave. Jian Wushuang planned to return to Enlightenment Mountain first. On his journey back, he encountered many ancient sect disciples. Jian Wushuang? That's Jian Wushuang. He has not been seen for a long time. I have been told that he has been staying in Sword Mountain for cultivation. Does he want to leave today? These disciples kept their distance, looking at Jian Wushuang from afar, their eyes full of awe. Jian Wushuang also met 2 palace masters who happened to walk by. They were Palace Master Destruction, who was Feng's master, and Palace Master Baiyu, who had once intended to accept Jian Wushuang as a personal disciple. They watched Jian Wushuang in the distance. It's Jian Wushuang. He has been staying in the Sword Mountain for cultivation and for the past 6 years has not shown his strength. I wonder how strong he is now, Palace Master Baiyu said with admiration. I have heard that Palace Master Xian Yi had just gotten a mission at the Divine Palace and it's an Earth-level task. It seems Jian Wushuang has been tasked with this mission, Palace Master Destruction observed. Earth-level task? Are they not reserved for advanced divine realm experts? Palace Master Baiyu looked perplexed. No, claimed the palace master Destruction as a bitter smile stretched across his face. He himself also had accepted a favorite disciple to his sect, Feng, who he knew was much weaker than Jian Wushuang. This lad really is a beast. Palace Master Baiyu softly shook his head. At that moment, he caught sight of the purple long sword on Jian Wushuang's back. Huh! The expression on Palace Master Baiyu's face suddenly froze. What's the matter, Baiyu? Palace Master Destruction looked at him with confusion. Palace Master Destruction, look closely, is that the Emperor sword strapped to his back? Palace Master Baiyu spoke, his tone displaying a hint of shock. Emperor sword? Palace Master Destruction was left dumbfounded as he saw Jian Wushuang carrying the purple long sword. Seeing this, the expression on Palace Master Destruction's face tightened. Good lord, Palace Master Xian Yi actually gave him the Emperor sword. It is clear that he holds Jian Wushuang in high regard. Palace Master Destruction explained. The Emperor sword isn't just an eternal weapon. Most importantly, it is Sword Palace's token, representing the successor of the Sword Palace. Palace Master Baiyu's eyes gleamed. Soon after Jian Wushuang returned to Enlightenment Mountain, he took time to pack some things, ready to leave the ancient sect to complete the Earth-level task. In front of a giant wormhole in the ancient sect, Jian Wushuang held the territory map from Xian Yi in his hand and carefully studied it. The territory under the control of the ancient sect is extremely vast, and the 11 divine realm experts that I need to kill are scattered across the territory. It will be difficult to kill them one by one. The first place I'm going is here. He looked at a city on the map, Danyang City. Chapter 684, Danyang City. Chapter 684, Danyang City. Danyang City was within the vast territory under the control of the ancient sect. It was a very ordinary, small city. This kind of city was home to many warriors, but few experts. According to the information given to Jian Wushuang, there were many families in the city. Among these families, even the strongest cultivators were only at the novice or intermediate divine realm. There were no advanced divine realm experts. Not long ago, a great demon named Bingji suddenly appeared in Danyang City. With immense strength, he quickly overpowered and slaughtered many of the divine realm experts from the city. Many families lost both experts and warriors at the hands of Bingji. Helpless, these families sought help from the ancient sect. There was a family named He. The He family were among the most respected in Danyang City. With 3 intermediate divine realm experts, the He family enjoyed a combined strength unrivaled by other families. However, with only 1 intermediate divine realm expert left, and the deaths of quite a few novice divine realm experts, their strength had significantly declined. Jian Wushuang approached the gate of the large mansion of the He family. "Who are you?" demanded one of the 2 guards that stopped Jian Wushuang. Without speaking, Jian Wushuang waved his hand as he produced a token. It was the disciple token of the ancient sect. An ancient sect disciple? The 2 guards were amazed to see the token. One of them said hurriedly, "Lord, wait a minute, please. I'll report to our master immediately." With that, the guard turned and headed for the mansion. There were dozens of people gathered in the large meeting hall of the He family. All doors and windows had been tightly sealed. Taking the lead of the meeting was a gray-haired elder. He was He Yun, the current master of the He family and the only surviving intermediate divine realm expert of the family. Others were some experts from the He family as well as masters and experts belonging to other families of Danyang City. These families had formed an alliance since Bingji appeared in Danyang City. He Yun, the Bingji threatens to wipe out every family in Danyang City if we cannot pay a ransom to him of 500,000 divine gems within 24 hours. What should we do now? A white-robed, old lady frowned worryingly as her voice echoed throughout the meeting hall, making the atmosphere become even tenser. 500,000 divine gems? He demands too much. 500,000 divine gems? Ha ha, collectively, the families here have barely been able to accumulate 1 million over the years, and he expects us to pay out 500,000 in one go. Hump. We will not pay, If it comes to a life and death battle, then so be it. The Divine Realm experts present spoke, full of irritation and anger. 500,000 divine gems was a fortune to the families of Danyang City. After all, the assets of an Eternal Realm expert would add up to 1 million divine gems, and most of the superior Divine Realm experts had only a few 100,000 divine gems or so. Due to years of accumulation, these families would be able to offer some gems, but 500,000 divine gems was still far more than they could afford. Enough. Silence. A notably distinguished voice rang out. Hiyun, sitting at the head of the room, finally opened his mouth to speak. Bingji is a true advanced Divine Realm expert, and you all know very well the difference between an advanced Divine Realm expert and an intermediate Divine Realm expert. To put it bluntly, he's capable of killing all of us in this room single-handed. Do you want to fight against him? In doing so, are you not courting death? Hearing this, the Divine Realm experts in the hall became silent. Fight against Bingji? They had tried this before, with little success. In their last encounter, a number of Divine Realm experts had died, as well as 2 intermediate Divine Realm experts from the He family, without Bingji being hurt in the slightest. The gap between intermediate and advanced Divine Realm experts was immense. Since he wants divine gems, we can give them to him for the time being. Hiyun continued, I have already sent a message to the ancient sect for help. Its expert will arrive soon. When the expert is here, Bingji can't run amok anymore. As for the divine gems that we hand over, we can get it back then. The best we can do for the ancient sect expert is to ensure that he gets everything he needs. Well said. Bingji may be an advanced Divine Realm expert, but he's no match for the ancient sect. We'll wait until the expert sent by the ancient sect arrives. The Divine Realm experts all agreed with Hiyun, happily awaiting the arrival of the ancient sect expert. After all, their combined strength would still not be enough to fight Bingji, though the ancient sect could easily kill him. What I fear most is that once we give Bingji the divine gems, he will immediately flee and the ancient sect expert will make a futile trip. At that time, we'll still suffer, so we must find ways to hold him here until the expert arrives. When Hiyun was talking, the closed door suddenly swung open and a figure entered the room. It was the guard who came to report. How dare you interrupt? Hiyun's face darkened. Master, lords, there's someone waiting at the door with the disciple token of the ancient sect. Not only that, but it's an inner disciple token, the guard blurted out. What? The Divine Realm experts in the hall were at first surprised, and then became ecstatic. The ancient sect expert has arrived. Hiyun jumped up in excitement. Then he spoke. Quickly, invite him in. Yes, sir. The guard hurried out to invite Jian Wuxuan inside. Everybody, let us go welcome him in, commanded Hiyun. Everyone left the hall to welcome Jian Wuxuan, who was soon visible to this group of Divine Realm experts. But when they looked closer at Jiang Wuxuan, is this a joke? Hiyun, the Grand Master of the He family and an intermediate Divine Realm expert, widened his eyes. Skyscraping realm? As a Divine Realm expert, he had an uncanny ability of perceiving aura. He instantly recognized the young man in front of him as a skyscraping realm cultivator, a fact that would not change even though this young man seemed to be an expert. How could they send a skyscraping realm cultivator? The Divine Realm experts present had become faint. They had expected a savior, but instead they got a skyscraping realm cultivator. Who's Hiyun, Master He? Jian Wuxuan stood in front of this group of experts, and he looked around indifferently. Hiyun's face had turned pale, his heart sunk. After hearing Jian Wuxuan's words, he answered in a weak voice. I am. Chapter 685, Savior. Chapter 685, Savior. My name is Jian Wuxuan, and I have been tasked with killing Bingji for you, Jian Wuxuan declared. Oh. Hiyun nodded his head, obviously a little underwhelmed. Seeing this, Jian Wuxuan couldn't stop his face becoming darker. He couldn't help but notice the look of despair on the faces of the people looking back at him. These people don't take me seriously because I'm a skyscraping realm cultivator. But they're right. After all, I need to kill an advanced divine realm expert. It's hard to imagine a skyscraping realm cultivator slaying an advanced divine realm expert, so it's understandable that they have little faith. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. At this moment, a novice divine realm expert in the crowd took one look at Jian Wushuang and curled his lips, then muttered, "He's merely at the skyscraping realm, but takes slaying Bingji so flippantly. It seems disciples from the ancient sect aren't quite what we thought. Unfortunate, I had high hopes for the ancient sect, but it would seem the ancient sect is just SOSO." The voice of the novice divine realm expert was little more than a whisper, but still Jian Wushuang heard what he said. Instantly, the look in Jian Wushuang's eyes turned to a steely gaze as the essence of the sword became obvious. Boom! The essence of the sword suddenly seemed to envelop the whole world, and it was as though time stood still. What is it? Such a terrible essence. It's just too strong. I've seen a top divine realm expert, knowledgeable in sword principle, display his skills, though even his essence wasn't as violent as this. The divine realm experts, who had almost felt hopeless, suddenly began to take notice, shocked. They could feel the obvious power held by this sword. The novice divine realm expert who had spoken so freely earlier now had a look of terror on his face. His eyes full of fear as he stared at Jian Wushuang. Frozen in place, he dared not move for fear that this young man in front of him, whom he had so underestimated, would kill him in an instant. He now had no doubt that the person stood in front of him possessed the ability to kill him with little effort. But clearly this man was merely a skyscraping realm cultivator. He didn't know Jian Wushuang was just at the skyscraping realm, but the latter had not only created Sword Heart but completely consolidated his ability at the first level of Sword Heart through 6 years of meditation in Sword Mountain. This made Jian Wushuang stronger than many Eternal Realm experts who specialized in sword principle. The power and essence contained within his sword could easily slay novice Divine Realm experts and even intermediate Divine Realm experts. I have come to complete a task. If you don't cooperate, you too will suffer the consequences. Jian Wushuang's voice became cold. Misunderstanding. This is a mere misunderstanding, Lord. He-Yun immediately changed his attitude, and even his tone had become humble and respectful. From what Jian Wushuang had just displayed, he could see that Jian Wushuang retained battle strength far beyond that of an ordinary skyscraping realm cultivator. His strength at the very least was more than his own and possibly even much stronger. Hope among the other divine realm experts had been rekindled. Lord, how will you deal with Bingji? He-Yun asked in a low voice. That's none of your business. I have my own way of killing him. Jian Wushuang didn't bother to engage in small talk. Fine. He-Yun nodded. Bingji gave the few families here a day to prepare divine gems. Barring a miracle, he will be here tomorrow to kill us all. Please take this opportunity to kill him, Lord. There is no need to wait until tomorrow. Take me to see him today, Jian Wushuang ordered. On the way, he had carefully studied the information he had on the 11 divine experts who he would kill. He had paid special attention to who, the strongest among them, for he was confident of killing the others with ease. Furthermore, he only had 2 months and a lot of time would be used up just finding these divine realm experts. Therefore he had no time to waste. Today. He-Yun was shocked. After contemplating this request, he nodded in agreement. Okay, Lord, follow me please. With that, he led Jian Wushuang to where Bingji was. The experts from the other families glanced at each other before following them. Before long, He-Yun and Jian Wushuang were in front of a towering building. The building was once home to the largest shop in Danyang City, but now it was occupied solely by Bingji. Bingji and his underlings gathered here regularly. Lord, Bingji is right in this building. It was obvious that He-Yun was a little nervous. Jian Wushuang nodded. He had noticed a strong aura coming from inside the building, which he knew must belong to Bingji. Master He, I assume you have thought it through and are here today to give our Lord the divine gems. A sneering voice was heard, and with that, some figures flew out of the building, headed by a middle-aged man with an evil scowl and a grim smile spread across his face. His aura made it known that he was an intermediate divine realm expert. This is Yuan Qian, an expert serving under Bing Ji. Many years ago he had a falling out with the He family. He was then hunted by my family and fled to other cities. Now he is the strongest among the divine realm experts serving under Bing Ji, He Yun whispered into Jian Wushuang's ears. Oh. Jian Wushuang replied nonchalantly. It was clear he didn't take this intermediate divine realm expert seriously. Jian Wushuang, an ancient sect disciple, comes to slay Bing Ji under orders. Jian Wushuang spoke clearly and his voice thundered throughout the whole of Danyang City. What did you say? Upon hearing this, the expressions of Yuan Qian and the divine realm experts serving under Bing Ji changed. An ancient sect disciple? Yuan Qian looked at Jian Wushuang intensely. But when he perceived Jian Wushuang's aura was merely at the skyscraping realm, his expression lightened. Ha ha ha, Yuan Qian laughed as though he had just heard the best joke in the world. He stared at Jian Wushuang, with a hint of ridicule in the eyes. Boy, what did you just say? Did you say you're here under orders to kill our lord? Am I hearing this correctly? Boy, repeat what you have just said. The Bing Ji underlings all looked at Jian Wushuang as if they were looking at a fool. The presence of an ancient sect disciple was indeed a big deal and certainly something for them to worry about. But this ancient sect disciple in front of them was merely a skyscraping realm cultivator. This skyscraping realm cultivator had threatened to kill their lord Bing Ji, an advanced divine realm expert. Surely this was a joke. However, it was obvious that Jian Wushuang was not one inclined to repeat himself. The emperor's sword was already in his hand and he began to wave his weapon. Chapter 686, Fighting Against an Advanced Divine Realm Expert. Chapter 686, Fighting Against an Advanced Divine Realm Expert. There was a huge gap between the different levels of divine realm experts. An intermediate divine realm expert was at least 10 times stronger than a novice divine realm expert, and the gap between a skyscraping realm expert and a divine realm expert was even greater. Everyone present were at least divine realm experts, and Yuan Qian was an intermediate divine realm expert. Why would he be concerned about Jian Wushuang, a skyscraping realm cultivator? When he saw Jian Wushuang wield the sword, he laughed dismissively. You must have a death wish. But when Jian Wushuang's sword was used correctly, the beautiful sword made people feel intoxicated with even its most basic movements. This sword seemed as though it was flawless. Huh! As Yuan Qian watched the fluid movements of the sword, he was surprised. It would seem the swordsmanship of this skyscraping realm cultivator is quite good. Though he was surprised, Yuan Qian still didn't care about Jian Wushuang. It wasn't until he came face to face with the power of this majestic sword. What? Yuan Qian was stunned. He found that when under attack from the sword, he had no room to dodge. He quickly waved his palms and using his spiritual power, he enlarged his palms which then patted the shadow of the sword. But it was no match. The cold sword edge cut straight through his palm like cutting tofu and continued cutting into his body with ferocious power and pierced through his entire body. Then, with all eyes watching in astonishment, Yuan Qian's figure fell weakly to the ground. Yuan Qian, an intermediate divine realm expert, was killed by a single move. With the sword in his hand, Jian Wushuang stood in the air. The edge of the long sword coldly emitted a slight purple glow, with blood dripping slowly. Jian Wushuang didn't even glance at Yuan Qian, but looked at the towering building ahead as his thundering roar suddenly sounded. Bing Ji, come and face death. 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 Jian Wushuang's voice echoed throughout the whole Danyang city, frightening numerous warriors. Bing Ji, who had been inside the building, could no longer sit still. Moving quickly, he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Bing Ji was a cold and calculating man with piercing eyes. Dressed in a black robe, he stared at Jian Wushuang, with a hint of horror in his eyes. Although he had stayed inside the building, he had been watching everything that had happened outside. At first he did not take Jian Wushuang seriously, but seeing how Jian Wushuang killed Yuan Qian made him feel nervous. Such swift movement. Yuan Qian is at least an intermediate divine realm expert, but was killed by a single blow. It was partly because of Yuan Qian underestimating his enemy, But his adversary would not be able to strike so swiftly without superior strength. His knowledge of word principle is extensive. Although he is merely at the skyscraping realm, his battle strength is comparable to that of an intermediate divine realm expert and even at their peak. This was Bing Ji's assessment of Jian Wushuang's strength. A disciple of the ancient sect. Bing Ji's pupils shrunk. No sooner have I arrived in Danyang City than I was targeted by the ancient sect. It seems that I must flee. Otherwise. This time they just sent a skyscraping realm disciple. It's irrelevant how strong he is, for his ability is limited, but next time they may send advanced divine realm experts, or worse yet, a superior divine realm expert to hunt down me. Bing Ji had decided. He had already benefited handsomely during his time in Danyang City, and he felt there was little to gain by staying here, so he had no intention of fighting with Jian Wushuang. Unless necessary, he had no intention of killing any disciples of the ancient sect, let alone a disciple with such excellent sword principle. Leave. Without hesitation, Bing Ji retreated. He Yun and the others were shocked by what they were seeing. They were sure that Bing Ji would be so angry that he wouldn't hesitate to fight and even kill Jian Wushuang, but when Bing Ji showed up, he instead ran away, but what Jian Wushuang did next surprised them even more. You won't escape anymore. Jian Wushuang spoke menacingly. Just then, his figure had turned into a phantom, and he chased Bing Ji so fast that he appeared behind him almost immediately. His speed. Realizing that Jian Wushuang was behind him, Bing Ji's heart sunk. Even though it was clear that Jian Wushuang was merely at the skyscraping realm, he was actually faster than Bing Ji. Admittedly, he was not specialized in speed, but even still, a skyscraping realm cultivator should not be able to catch up with him. When Jian Wushuang appeared, the essence of his sword exploded. As Jian Wushuang waved his hand, the shadow of a sword moving as quick as lightning cut into him. Bastard. The reason I fled was that I have no desire to fall out with the ancient sect. Do you really think I would be afraid of you, a skyscraping realm nonentity? With a roar, Bing Ji cast a glance at Jian Wushuang. He waved his sleeve, then an enormous energy swept out and a statue of a khaki giant, 30 feet tall, suddenly emerged in front of Jian Wushuang. The khaki giant yelled to the sky, then waved his fist, full of energy, and directed it at Wushuang. The khaki giant was merely a product of Bing Ji's energy. It was by no means a superb technique, and the giant wasn't strong. Attack! With a yell, Jian Wushuang slashed relentlessly with the Emperor sword, almost splitting the khaki giant in half with overwhelming force. He then turned the sword toward Bing Ji with violent intentions. What? Bing Ji's face suddenly looked worried. For a long time now, what he had just displayed was enough to defeat even those that were top intermediate divine realm experts, but Jian Wushuang bettered it with a single blow from his sword. This made Bing Ji realize that Jian Wushuang's strength might be that of advanced intermediate divine realm. Humph. With a cold contemplation, Bing Ji didn't dare to take any more chances. With a turn of his wrist, a saber appeared in his hand. The saber was mercilessly set upon the light from Jian Wushuang's sword, and at the same time, Bing Ji's palm holding the saber doubled in size, thus increasing the saber's power. Battle commenced. Bang! After a thud, Jian Wushuang took a small step back, but Bing Ji was completely knocked off his stride. When he regained his balance, Bing Ji looked dumbstruck. How can this be possible? I, a grand advanced divine realm expert, was forced to use my divine weapon and secret skills, including my strongest secret skill, the Thousand Apes Hand, to fight against a skyscraping realm cultivator, and it is I that must retreat. Exactly how strong is he? Chapter 687, Slaughter. Chapter 687, Slaughter. This confrontation had left Bing Ji frightened. The strength Jian Wushuang possessed was clearly beyond that of the skyscraping realm and made him, an advanced divine realm expert, very worried. Die! A sudden cry reverberated through heaven and earth as Jian Wushuang moved rapidly and once more appeared in front of Bing Ji. With an obvious intent to kill, Jian Wushuang struck violently with the Emperor sword. Boy, don't be too arrogant. There was anger in Bing Ji's eyes. He yelled out as his palm, holding the saber, grew drastically once more. Its size and its power, which had previously doubled, now quintupled. The strength being generated obviously quintupled, too. Until now quintuple strength was his limit. Sky-burying skill. His face turned red as his spiritual power reached a new extreme and he attacked using the saber. This attack was the strongest strike in his arsenal, and used up all his strength. The void seemed to be cut open, and the power of the blade rushed forward with extreme force. The force was so strong that Jian Wushuang couldn't help looking sideways, but a sneer appeared across his mouth. The sword heart, which had already become essence of his consciousness, was slightly shaken, and 70% of the sword heart power activated. Sword heart was capable of generating attacking power as sword soul. But the power achieved with sword heart was much stronger than that achieved with sword soul. Just 70% of sword heart power would be enough to make the power of Jian Wushuang's strike to multiply by as much as 10 times. Bang! As the opponent's attacks collided, the winner of the confrontation appeared. Disaster! The light of the sword light broke out and the waves spread. Bing Ji's palm holding the saber tightly suddenly shook and his hand broke as his whole body fell backwards as though he had been hit by a cannonball. This. Bing Ji was stunned. He had never thought a day would come when a mere skyscraping realm cultivator could outclass him. In fact, Jian Wushuang had spent the 6 years in Sword Mountain focusing on sword principle, but he had also made improvements on his physical form by virtue of some natural treasures. He had been studying the bone fusion technique of the immortality secret skill before, but now he had completed stage 1 of the blood condensation technique. Although it was only the first stage, his body had become significantly stronger. The combination of the spiritual power given by heavenly creation skill and his increased physical strength meant that he could compete with an average divine realm expert now in strength alone. As for his understanding of Tao, he was at the same level as Bing Ji and possibly even stronger. Bing Ji was more skilled than Jian Wushuang when using those secret skills which increased his strength. When his palm grew just now, the power exploded 5 times stronger than usual. Jian Wushuang was not qualified to practice such kind of secret skills now, but his sword heart had reached level 1. Once activated, only 70% of it was enough to increase his attacking ability tenfold. In a situation where both opponents were almost the same in all other aspects. One's strength was multiplied by 5 while the other's strength was improved tenfold, creating a huge gap. Hence, Jian Wushuang could easily outclass Bing Ji even if he battled him head-on. Bing Ji couldn't fight against Jian Wushuang, and he had no hope of defeating him in any other aspects. Escape! Bing Ji no longer had the courage to fight Jian Wushuang, and fled hastily. Of course, Jian Wushuang did his best to hunt him down. In terms of the life-saving ability, Bing Ji was not strong, so he couldn't escape quickly, making it easy for Jian Wushuang to hunt him. When Jian Wushuang displayed his swordsmanship, Bing Ji fought back relentlessly, but in the end he was defeated. Above Danyang City, the divine realm experts from the families, who had been watching all this, gasped when they saw Bing Ji attempting to flee, and were even more shocked to see Bing Ji's lifeless corpse fall to the ground. Although they were aware of Jian Wushuang's unusual strength, none of them thought he could kill Bing Ji with his strength alone when he arrived. However, not only did Jian Wushuang kill Bing Ji, but the battle had been so one-sided. Bing Ji, who had been too strong for all divine realm experts present to defeat, couldn't fight against Jian Wushuang. The gap had been too big. This is an ancient sect disciple. The legendary ancient sect disciple is actually quite exceptional. A skyscraping realm cultivator killed an advanced divine realm expert head-on. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I would never believe it. The divine realm experts all marveled at it. After this incident, they had a newfound respect for the ancient sect. At that moment, Jian Wushuang, who had put Bing Ji's corpse into his interspatial ring, turned to look at He Yun, informing him, "My task was only to kill Bing Ji. As for those people serving under him, you can deal with them yourself." Then he turned to leave. As for those remaining divine realm experts that served under Bing Ji, without Bing Ji, who was an advanced divine realm expert, and Yuan Qian, who had been killed by Jian Wushuang, they posed no threat, but the families had no intention of letting them go. In the end, Save for 2 very lucky Divine Realm experts that managed to escape, all the others were killed by these families. Soon, harmony returned to Danyang City once more. Of course, the fate of Danyang City had nothing to do with Jian Wushuang. He was only responsible for killing Bing Ji. After the mission was completed, he left and set off to the location of the second target of his mission. Next target, Chunan, a top intermediate Divine Realm expert. Jian Wushuang studied a mountain below. According to his information, Chunan was hiding in that mountain. Without any hesitation, Jian Wushuang dived toward the mountain. The advanced Divine Realm expert Bing Ji was killed by Jian Wushuang and had no opportunity to flee. An intermediate Divine Realm expert would not pose much of a threat. Soon, Jian Wushuang flew out of the mountain and Chunan, who had been killed, was put in his interspatial ring. Next, Jian Wushuang went toward his third target. Slaughter. Jian Wushuang was on a mission of slaughter. Jian Wushuang had known the 11 targets' locations, so it only took him some time to easily find them and directly kill them. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,